Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back to the History AI podcast, where the past is never passé, and the tales of yesteryear still echo loudly for those willing to listen. I'm your host, Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Today we're diving deep into a pivotal showdown of antiquity, the Battle of Metaurus.
The Metaurus, not just a river in Italy, but the stage of a clash that would mark a turning point in the Second Punic War.
Before we march with the legions, let's give a shout out to our listeners. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, follow, and share this podcast. Your support charges our chariots.
Well put, Marco. And remember, folks, if there's a piece of history you're curious about, sling us a suggestion on social media.
Now, to set the scene, it's 207 BCE. The world is far from the global village we know today. Rome is fighting for its life against Carthage, a powerful city-state from what is now Tunisia.
And Carthage has a trump card, Hannibal, a general so fierce, he took his war elephants over the Alps.
But Chuck, we're not focusing on Hannibal today, are we?
No, sir. We're talking about his Unsung brother, Hasdrubal Barca, who's attempting a similar feat, moving an army from Iberia to Italy to reinforce Hannibal.
Let's talk about the planning. Hasdrubal's trek isn't a Sunday stroll. He's got to coordinate with Hannibal, manage supply lines over hostile territory, and avoid Roman detection.
And the Romans are no slouches. They have their spies and scouts. They know something's up. They just don't know where the hammer will fall.
And fall it does. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Rome splits its forces, one under the command of Gaius Claudius Nero, and the other led by Marcus Livius Salinator.
You've got to love those Roman names, right? They sound like they could be rock bands.
Definitely, Chuck. Anyway, Hasdrubal is commanding a mix of troops, Iberians, Celts, and a few war elephants for good measure.
Elephants, Marco. The tanks of the ancient world.
That's right. But let's take a brief pause here for a word from our sponsor.
From the mind behind the History AI podcast comes an electrifying journey into the past. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Dive into a tale where Benjamin Franklin, America's beloved inventor, takes an unexpected journey through time. But with his leap, he unleashes a powerful ripple. Now, with dark forces lurking in the shadows, harnessing this energy to shatter and enslave the world, it's a race against time. Will Franklin fix the future? Or will history rewrite itself? Uncover the secrets. A ripple through time, Franklin's Folly. Time has never been more fragile. On Amazon now.
Welcome back. We left off with Hasdrubal's forces moving through Italy. The Romans under Nero catch wind of him first.
Nero is tenacious. He decides to shadow Hasdrubal, stalking him like a wolf tailing a stag.
Meanwhile, Salinator is digging in, waiting to block Hasdrubal's path.
It's a classic pincer move. And speaking of moves, let's talk about the tactics. The Romans know they can't just rely on brute force.
No, they need finesse. So they feign retreats, harass the Carthaginian supply lines, and keep Hasdrubal guessing.
Now, the heroes of this campaign aren't just the commanders. There are stories of Roman soldiers showing incredible bravery.
Like the centurion who scaled the enemy ramparts alone, or the standard-bearer who refused to let the eagle fall even when surrounded.
They might not have had capes, Marco, but these guys were the superheroes of their day.
Without a doubt. And as dawn breaks over the Metaurus River, the two Roman forces converge on Hasdrubal.
The battle is fierce, chaotic. Elephants are trumpeting, swords are clashing, and then, a stroke of Roman genius. Nero breaks off a detachment, sneaks around, and hits Hasdrubal from behind.
That's the turning point. Hasdrubal's line crumbles. He himself fights to the end but falls in battle, a hero to his cause, if not to history.
The aftermath is grim. Thousands of Carthaginians fall. Rome has averted disaster, but at a cost.
The victory is strategic gold though. It isolates Hannibal in Italy and swings the war's momentum.
And it's a lesson in leadership. Nero and Salinator, not the best of friends, put aside their differences for the good of Rome.
Exactly, Chuck. The Battle of Metaurus isn't just about soldiers on a field, it's about how unity and smart tactics can turn the tide of war.
It's a turning point in the Second Punic War and, some might say, the beginning of the end for Carthage's ambitions in Italy.
As for the lasting impact, it's like dropping a pebble in a pond. The ripples spread. Rome's confidence soars, and they push their advantage, eventually leading to their dominance over the Mediterranean.
That's our deep dive into the Battle of Metaurus, folks. The unsung battle that shaped the Western world.
Before we sign off, remember those thousands who fell on that fateful day, from foot soldiers to generals, each with their own story.
And let's also remember to enjoy the peace we so often take for granted, which they could only dream of.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on the History AI podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow button, rate us if you loved the episode, and share with fellow history buffs.
We're Chuck and Marco, and we'll be back soon with another page from history. Until then, keep the past present,